All right, today we are going to solve for x. We're going to solve some single variable equations. Single variable means there's only one letter in each of these equations. We don't have x's and y's, we just have x's. So, number one, 14x plus 10x equals 180. Remember, the first thing we need to do on that left-hand side of the equal sign is combine like terms. So let's look, 14x plus 10x. Are those like terms? Yes, they both have an x, so we can add them together. So, what is 14x plus 10x? That's 24x equals 180. Now remember, when we're solving an equation, the goal is to get the variable on one side of the equal sign by itself. So we want to get the x on one side of the equal sign by itself. So this 24x, that's like 24 times x, 24 multiplied by x. To get rid of this 24 and just get the x by itself, we have to do the opposite of multiplying by 24, which would be dividing by 24. So what we do to one side of the equation, we always have to do to the other. So we're going to divide both sides of the equation by 24. These 24s here, they make a giant 1, because any number other than 0 divided by itself is 1. So on this left-hand side, what we have left is 1x equals, and then this 180 divided by 24, you can just put that in your calculator or on Desmos, we get 7.5. So we can write it as 1x equals 7.5, or you can just say x equals 7.5. Both of those are correct. Number 2, 3x minus 12 equals 90. Solving an equation, the goal is to get the x on one side of the equation by itself. So 3x minus 12, are those like terms? No, because one of them has an x and one doesn't. One has a variable and one doesn't. So we can't combine them. What we need to do is move this 12 over to the other side of the equal sign. This is a minus 12. We're subtracting 12. So to move it over, you do the opposite. So we're going to add 12 to both sides. These cancel out. They go away. So we have 3x equals 90 plus 12, which is 102. Now, we want just 1x over here by itself on the left-hand side of the equal sign. So this is 3 multiplied by x. What's the opposite of multiplying by 3? How do we undo multiplying by 3? We divide. So we're going to divide both sides of the equation by 3. Remember, these 3's make a giant 1. Because 3 divided by 3 is just 1. So we get 1x equals 102 divided by 3, do that in your calculator on Desmos, 34. And that's our answer. Because now we have x on one side of the equation by itself. Number 3, 4x minus 10 equals 3x. Now here, this one's a little tricky because we're used to moving over our constants. Like over there, we moved over the minus 12. We added 12 to both sides. This time, we have x's on both sides of the equal sign. So we need to figure out what we should do. What are we going to do to get those x's all on one side? So let's take this 4x, let's subtract 4x from both sides. It's a positive 4x, so it's like adding 4x. The opposite of being positive is negative. The opposite of adding is subtracting. So we're going to subtract 4x from both sides. When we do that, on the left-hand side, these go away. So we're left with negative 10, don't forget to keep the negative sign with it, equals 3x minus 4x, negative 1x. Now, we are so close to having x on one side by itself. But right now, we have negative 10 equals negative 1x. So this is like negative 1 multiplied by x, so we need to do the opposite of that. Instead of multiplying by negative 1, we're going to divide both sides by negative 1. A negative divided by negative is a positive, so we have positive 10 equals 1x. Positive 10 equals x. We are done. We got x on one side of the equal sign by itself. Number 4, 12 minus 9x equals negative 3x. So we need to get all of our x's on one side of the equal sign. So we're going to, this is a minus 9x and negative 9x, so the opposite of subtracting is adding. Add 9x to both sides. We're left with 12 because these x's cancel out, equals negative 3x plus 9x. What is negative 3 plus 9? 6x. Now, we want x on one side of the equation by itself, but right now we have 6 times x. We have 6 x's over here. So we're going to divide both sides by 6 because the opposite of multiplying by 6 is dividing. We're going to do that. 12 divided by 6 is 2. This right here is a giant 1. So 2 equals x. 1x if you want to write it like that. Okay, here 90 equals 4x plus 6x. On the left-hand side here, there's nothing we're going to do with that 90 right now. Equals, now 4x and 6x, those are like terms, so let's add them together. If we have 4 x's and we get 6 more x's, we have 10 x's. So remember this here, this is like 10 times x. The multiplication symbol is in there, we just don't see it. So what's the opposite of multiplying by 10? Dividing by 10. Divide both sides of the equation. Remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. By 10, so 90 divided by 10 is 9, equals, these 10s make a giant 1, so 9 equals x. Or 1x, if you want to write it like that. Last problem, number 6. 3x plus 15 equals 4x minus 5. So first, let's get all of our x's on one side. You might be like, do I move the 3x over or the 4x over? I would normally move the smaller quantity. So 3 is smaller than 4, so let's subtract 3x from both sides. Now these 3 x's cancel each other out. So we have 15 equals, now you have to ask yourself, do I subtract the 3x from the 4x or from the negative 5? Which one is it alike? Which ones are like terms? 4x has an x, negative 3x has an x. You subtract the like terms. So we have 4x minus 3x, that's 1x minus 5. We're so close to having that 1x by itself, but what we need to do is move this negative 5 over to the other side of the equal sign. So it's a minus 5, or we're subtracting 5. What is the opposite of subtracting 5? Adding 5. Add 5 to both sides, we get 20 equals 1x, and we are done.